I think we'll give that a go, don't you, boys?
Go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott. Tonight, as you can see, I'm joined once again by the multi-talented Ian Noble. Ian, good evening, mate.
Oh, is that me? Multi-talented? Yes, Nick. Good evening, my friend.
Hello, buddy. And we were supposed to be having Harvey Jennings coming back again and Steve Mason. But Harvey's having troubles getting onto us at the moment, so we'll come back to him. But last game of the season, gentlemen, making his first appearance, his debut on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you one of Harvey's friends, Harvey Jennings, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. George Webb is his name, but we know him as G Webb. G Webb, welcome to the review, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
How are you, mate?
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not bad.
Mate, I'm sure you and I had this conversation about a year ago.
Yeah.
That you need to get your backside on it. So it's my bad. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you'll know that we were appealing to different demographics of our society, of our fan base, that we wanted to get on the show. Hence why we've introduced Harvey and now G Webb. And G Webb is going to be hopefully going forward with us for some time to come. So, mate, you are more than welcome. And thank you for, I know it was only last week I asked you to do it, but thank you for jumping on. Listen, right, okay, for everybody else, his benefit, G-Web, tell me about your Palace supporting history, which is what we do with all our new guests.
Right, yeah. Well, I think like most people, it wasn't a choice. It's forced upon me. Both granddads supported Palace, mum and dad supported Palace, got a season ticket when I was about 4 in the main stand, still got the same seat to this day. So yeah, don't have much say in the matter, but yeah, met you because we're going to away days with Harv and your boy Sam. So yeah, no, it's yeah, that's the sort of whistle stop tour of my Palace supporting history.
So we've been to a couple of games together, but I can't remember. Have we done any away games together?
Yeah, we've done Norwich. Definitely did Norwich on New Year's Day the other year. And then we've done a few others, but yeah, it's Brighton, the last one before.
Of course, yeah. We did. Of course, we did. That wonderful day. Right, ladies and gentlemen, after what can only be described as a monumental week on the Crystal Palace roller coaster, we are going to be looking at the repercussions of Roy Hodgson's resignation. Tim, Steve may be jumping back on again in a second. Obviously, hopefully during the show, we're going to be finding out a little bit more about G-Webb. The implications towards Eze's injuries. Well, I suppose we better chat about the two different disappointing results at Arsenal and today at Anfield. And any questions from the audience. But don't forget, you can find us on, we are your favourite podcast provider. Just go to any of them, Acast if you like. We're also on Twitter, YouTube, or go to our website, www.redandbluereview.co.uk to find this show and any back catalogue. And welcome back, Steve Mason. Steve-O, mate, you've been in and out like, what's the analogy I can use?
Keep it clean, Nick. Keep it clean.
Yeah. A jackhammer. Let's go with jackhammer.
Like an Essex girl on heat.
Yeah, something like that. Listen, mate, again, thank you for joining us. So this is your second, yeah?
It is indeed.
Well, how's your new podcast going? And tell me about any effects you've had. Has anybody mentioned Red and Blue Review on there, or?
No, nobody has as yet. It's been all right. It's I've got obviously 2 videos out plus the intro, so 3 videos I've done. I did a nice interview with a sports club in South East London, which was really good. I was halfway through making a really good one on the AJ Fury fight. But obviously, we all know what's happened there. So I've scrapped that for the time being. And I'm going to do another one relating to the fallout of that and a video on the Fury Wilder. Fury Wilder. I've got some bits lined up. But, just been plugging away, really. I've had a couple of good... had some really good days, which I'm going to start recording tomorrow. I've got job interviews tomorrow. I've got... a training course I got registered for as well, so I'm keeping myself busy. It's been good.
Didn't a little birdie tell me that you actually wanted a particular person as an interviewee?
I did indeed, but I haven't had a reply from you yet, Nick.
Listen, I told you, mate, it would be a pleasure to jump on and give you any support that I can. You know that. Seriously, let's do it in the summer, okay? And we've got plenty of time over the summer. Just pick up the phone, talk to me, and we'll get something in the diary, and it'll take half an hour to record. And if it supports your little thing that you're doing on YouTube, all the better for it. But I need to say hello to some people. And G-Web, I don't know if you've got access to the Red and Blue News Facebook page while we're talking, but there's messages in there for you already, which I'm coming to in a minute. So just
I haven't got a laptop anymore because my last one was inadequate for what I needed.
Cool.
And
so
I won't go into these
how
the scams and whatnot. But
right, how can they find you on YouTube, mate?
On YouTube, literally just go to, it's called Sports Vlogger, and then they will literally. So say that again.
Carry on.
Yeah, literally search Sports Vlogger, and then you'll see it'll come up. It'll have a black background with my little logo and Sports Vlogger, and then just click on. There'll a couple of videos, and
like and subscribe on Sports Vlogger.
Yeah, subscribe would be good. And like it, make some comments on there, get involved. I really want some ideas for content for people that will, that want to get involved as well. So
good stuff. Right. So good evening to everybody out in Facebook land. I can see you all. I'm going to say some hellos in a minute. But before I do, G-Web, this is aimed straight at you. Okay. Paul Holden says, good evening to the Ultras, which is us, Ultras. Okay. Me and Ian in particular. Okay. Wait a second, he says. You bought on a youngster. All right, G-Rev, sign him up. Do you know Paul Holden?
I don't know.
He knows you.
Yeah.
You've already got a fan out. You've already got a fan out there. James Conway, Tom Clark Samuel. Thank you for everything you do. He's saying, welcome to the family, G-Web. Ian Appley, Daniel Garlick, John Knox, hello, mate. Michael Middleton, Andrew Adams, Max Francis, and Soli. And mine's not scrolling there, but to each and every one of you watching out there, good evening and thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving up your Sunday evening to what is going to be our last Red and Blue review of the season. We're in match week 38 of 38. Or is it? Or is this the last review? You have to stay tuned to the end of the show to find out what I'm written on about. Right, before we move on, boys, it would be remiss of me to forget to talk about how successful. I know we touched on the under-18s this year, guys, and we touched on the ladies and how well they've all done this season, but they haven't done as well as our wonderful under-23s. So, ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, if you have not bought your £5 match ticket for tomorrow night at Selhurst Park for a 7 o'clock kickoff, Crystal Palace Football Club put out a message yesterday saying that they've sold already in excess of 2,000 tickets for Monday nights. Premier League 2 Division 2 playoff final against Sunderland. It is a 7 o'clock kickoff. You do have to go through your COVID stuff and everything else. So you have to do your questionnaire, send it back, and then they'll send you out a second booking confirmation. And attached to that confirmation is the your match ticket. Mine's come through this afternoon, even on a Sunday. So the club do seem to have it. So out of that, with that information in hand, boys, hands up. Who's going tomorrow night? G-Web, just you, man. Okay, so...
Yeah, man.
You know I'm not going tomorrow night. I've told you the reason why I'm not going tomorrow night.
Okay, so it was simply to throw you under the bus, okay?
Thank you.
And it clearly was.
And that's rich coming from you.
Right, listen, no, in all joking aside, I've actually heard, I was surprised when I saw that put out by the club that they've only sold 2,000 tickets, because my understanding is that they'd actually sold all of the lower Homesdale already, and to the point where they'd already opened up the upper Homesdale, which I'm aware of, and because it sold so many tickets, they've even opened up the Whitehall stand as well. Have any of you heard of anything else on the ticket sales for tomorrow night?
No, mate. I thought they had them all on sale in the first place because I went on when they first went on sale, and I could have picked one in the White Horse on the first day. So I think they opened it up from the word go. It's just that everyone's got them in Lower Homesdale.
Yeah, and I wonder if
two people on their own in the White Horse.
Me and G-Web.
I hope not.
Yeah. Oh, all right, okay. Harvey sending us a message saying he was seriously trying to get on, mate. I know you were, and thank you for your efforts this evening. So yeah, get along, support the under-23s. Do not forget they are the future of our football club. We've got some excellent players in the 23s. Okay, so the future is very bright. So please get along if you can tomorrow night, 7:00 kickoff. But you will need to ticket in advance. They're not selling tickets on the day. I also wanted to mention a post I found on the Facebook page earlier. I got the author's permission to read this out, guys, because it's funny how it obviously ended up today. And there's a guy called Barry Flint, and it wasn't on the Red and Blue News Facebook page. It was on one of the other Palace Facebook pages. So I messaged him and said, I hope it's okay to read. Can I have your permission to read this out? And he said, yeah, sure. So this is what he said. Hopefully we will finish above Brighton again. Tick, job done. It says it really pisses them off, regardless of what they say. It really does. Okay. The emergence of some of the young first team players this year, Tyreek Mitchell, has been good to see. The under-18s have had a great season, and quite a few potential players from the future squad. The under-23s have had a solid season in the first season in our Category A academy. If they win the playoff final on Monday night, they get promoted, which is a massive achievement. The red tickets are selling well, and there should be a great atmosphere. Farewell to Roy for what he's done. He's done what was required of him, and always been easy on the eye. Not always been easy on the eye, but good luck and all the best for the future. And that was from Barry Flint. Barry, thank you for those words, mate. Pleasure to read them out. I think it's right. Where do we start? Mr. Noble, I'm going to come to you because I know you're going to give me some wise words of wisdom about the Roy Hodgson announcement this week. It turns out that he'd let the club know a couple of months ago of his intention not to stay. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
That announcement of Roy, post his announcement that he was going to leave as manager, that he told the club 2 months ago that he wouldn't be staying on beyond the end of this season, was typical Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson is such a gentleman that you wouldn't expect anything else from him. He has clearly given Steve Parish and the board and Mr. Friedman time to work on a replacement. It's no surprise either that we don't know who that is yet. You wouldn't expect an announcement to be made until Roy has stepped down at the end of this season, which has, of course, now happened today. And, I wouldn't hold my breath in terms of announcement anytime in the next week. But you'd like to think that the announcement would be soon, i.e. not the day before the season kicks off, that sort of thing. So they must have been working behind the scenes to get the right person in. Of course, there's lots of runners and riders in this, lots of contenders. We'll all have our own view as to who the best appointment should be. And of course, all the time these playoffs are going on in the Championship, that is a question mark, because we've been linked with the managers of probably 3 of those playoff clubs. And 2 of them are in the final on next Saturday. So, clearly if a team goes up, I can't imagine them to lose their manager, but the others could be potential candidates for Crystal Palace, along with the likes of Lampard and Howe, and maybe 1 or 2 others. So I applaud Roy for doing what he's done. You could tell from his interviews latterly in the last few weeks that he wasn't going to be here next season. I think I've said on the show a few times I wouldn't expect him to be here at the end of next season, and proved to be right. But it's been great, hasn't it? It was great to be there the other night, to wish him well, to see him off, to cheer him on, to sing his name. And I think he's been very measured and emotional at the same time in his interviews. And he paid tribute to his backroom staff today in his post-match interview, which I think he'd sort of forgotten to do a little bit in previous interviews. But it was great to see him list off a whole host of backroom staff that has made his life so much easier at Crystal Palace in these last 4 years. So thank you, Roy. Thank you for all you've done. And we move on. Really
well said, mate. Really well said. Steve, I'm coming to you in a minute about Ian just alluded to the runners and riders. I think we lost one at the first hurdle, and that was Frank Lampard, but I'm coming to you on that in a second. G-Web, did you go to the Arsenal game?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in
right, okay. Ian and G-Web together. Could you maybe just eulogise what it was like? First game back, support was in the ground. How was it? And all the rest of it. And I'm going to be absolutely honest from you. I didn't go, but from a listening point of view, the ground did sound a little bit flat. Am I wrong?
Wouldn't say any more. Well, marginally less so than usual, but it's probably down to two things, which is volume of actual number of people there, and secondly, you don't have that kind of core contingent in the back of the Homesdale organised, creating that noise with a drum and all that sort of bit. So I think it was always going to feel a little bit flatter than usual. But I think we were saying before we came on that it felt the same but different. There was just little things which for me, for a start, I was in a different stand to you. Just everything didn't feel quite as like clockwork as a normal home game in normal times. But it's still Selhurst Park. It was still an important game of football, even though we've got nothing to play for. It was Premier League football, and it was. I thought our second half performance as well meant that everyone got up quite well for the for at least a good half hour, 40 minutes. But yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was the same but different. It's not easy making a lot of noise with the mask on either. Let's be said about that. Some people didn't bother with them in the end, And I think socially distanced, you were set apart. There was no one sitting next to you unless you were in a bubble with other people. So you're sitting there on your own with two seats either side, empty, which is a strange feeling at football, because normally at football you buzz up other people, you've got people around you all the time, and it's one of those places where it's sort of acceptable to brush past people, isn't it? Back in the days of the terraces, just jumping all over each other, and you don't mind doing that at football. It's part and parcel of being a football. So it was different. I mean, I went to the Spurs game back in December as well. There were obviously even less fans there that day. But I think we made enough noise for 6,500 people, and I think the players and certainly Roy in his post match appreciated that we did make a little bit of a difference, and we were unlucky to lose that game. And again, I said pre-show, any other game, any other day, and you're really, really seething, having lost 2 goals in stoppage time, but it sort of didn't matter because of the Roy factor, because the football was secondary, really, to saying goodbye to Roy Hodgson in many, many ways. And yeah, as George has said, we matched them in the second half. If I just give you the stats for that game, very briefly, possession, Arsenal had 69-31. We had 12 shots to their 6 on target to their 3. They only had 3 shots on target. They scored 3 goals, for crying out loud.
That's happened more than once this year, though, isn't it?
Yeah, corners were equal and fouls were equal. So the stats were good for us. No doubt about that at all. And I think we look a different team with Benteke in that side. I think we missed him a little bit today. We'll come on today's game later. But, when you put the ball into the box, you need someone that can get on the end of it. And Tekkers has proved in the last 4 games scoring goals, almost for fun, a bit like the old Christian Benteke. And it was great that we were singing his name as well at the Arsenal game. And, and it was great to be back, but it's not football as we know it. It really isn't, and, let's hope that this, the vaccines kick in, the social distancing is no longer a thing in a few months' time, and we can get back to football, meeting in the pubs, packed pubs before the game, packed bars, enjoying the pre-match, enjoying the atmosphere together in the grounds, making lots of noise, and getting back to supporting football as it should be, and not in the way that we've experienced it, albeit that it was better than nothing. I think you'd say, George, wouldn't you?
100%, yeah, no. Yeah. And it helped the pubs were actually open. They were different,
yes.
But it was, yeah.
Yeah, I went in the Clifton pre-match, first time for ages, so that was nice to pop in there on the corner there. So yeah.
Right, Steve. Let's talk about the Frank Lampard thing. And in case people hadn't seen it, there's reports in some cruddy clickbait magazine this week that Frank Lampard has pulled away and turned down the opportunity to manage Crystal Palace because he thinks the rebuild is too much of a project and they're going to be in relegation for the next season. Now, most importantly, before I come to you, number one, that hasn't been confirmed by him or anybody connected with the club. Okay, it is a simple, horrible clickbait online magazine that's been picked up by lots of different organisations. So there's probably no truth behind it whatsoever. And tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they'll unfold Frank Lampard as their new manager. But assuming that is the case, what's your thoughts, Steve, on the Lampard thing?
So for me, obviously, I would like Frank Lampard. I think it would be good, again, for the obvious reasons. He obviously had to deal with a limited budget and resources at Derby and did very, very well, in my opinion, albeit with a help from Chelsea with the likes of Mason Mount. but he still got a team that was struggling with, minimal budget, so to speak, and still got him into the playoffs. I think when he went to Chelsea, again, bringing the youth players through, again, because of the transfer ban, he had to use what was available to him until the winter transfer window, and then obviously he could spend. I think, for me personally, if he decided not to come to Palace just because of the rebuilding sort of side of things, I don't like the fact that people are considering it a rebuild. Yes, there's 12 players out of contract, but with all due respect, probably 7 or 8 of them haven't played for God knows how long anyway. And if he comes in, he's got the potential to sign any one of those 12, albeit some of them are now sort of, muted for signing for other clubs. But even if you've got 9, 10 players still available, you come in, you sign for Palace, you come in, you assess what you've got, you sign 2 or 3 of those up, and then you go out and, you wheel and deal in the transfer market and get another, 2, 3, maybe 4 players in. So actually, he's got the potential for Lampard. I don't agree with the fact that he's pulled out because it's a rebuilding process. But I would really like him. But if he didn't come, it wouldn't be the end of the world, because I think there are other managers out there that we've been linked with that, are just as good, if not better.
And as we could see in the background, mate, tonight you've reminded me of that. I don't know if you saw during the first lockdown, the BBC interview where the guy he was talking about a very professional subject, and behind him into the room came the kids, okay, and were messing about behind Daddy's head or Mummy's head, whoever it was, on screen. Well, we all just saw what was going on behind you. Harvey is sitting there ready to go. If you need to go and do a bit of childcare, mate, it doesn't matter. Just drop yourself
No,
out.
she meant to be going to bed, and she's been in a room with the other half for like half an hour. But as soon as she knows I'm on any form of Zoom meeting, she comes in and just tries to be nosy.
It's called life. I mean, there was some. Yeah. There was some lovely things said about Roy Hodgson, and I just picked out a few things that he said and other people have said about him. The 73-year-old former England boss said, "The time is now right to step away from the rigours of top-flight Premier League football." Do note, everybody, he didn't mention retirement. Hodgson's been in charge of Palace since September 2017. Obviously, his last games were Arsenal at home and his last match this afternoon at Anfield. He said, "I'm certainly not leaving Crystal Palace with the idea of putting myself back in for another job. I'm really just stepping away from football for a while, but who knows what the future will be. Never say never." I thought that was quite... Can you... I mean, Ian, can you see him coming out, not retirement, but coming back in a championship club in...
Yeah, I mean, made it very clear that he's not retiring from football management altogether. And therefore, I think he would take some time out. Let's say 12 months, 12 months. And, if a club in the Championship or even League One asked him to come in and do a job for a couple of years, especially it was a job to say, rescue a season, he might fancy that. But I don't see why he would want to be honest with you. 45 years in management in all the clubs and even different countries that he's managed. Clearly he's not short of a few, Bob. Why would he want to put himself through that? I'm sure he would have every opportunity to do some punditry. Interestingly, John Knox just put in the chat here. Current odds. Thanks, John. Frank Lampard still 7-4 despite the rubbish press. Eddie Howe 4-1. Steve Cooper 6-1. So I've said before, bookies are really that wrong. They put those odds in there for a reason, because they're informed. If you're taking people's money and paying out on it, you do your research, probably more than we do. And therefore, I still think, like you said, Steve, Frank Lampard would be an excellent appointment for Crystal Palace. He really would.
I agree.
But anyway, come back to your Roy question. Roy, do I think I'll see him again in management? No, I don't. He will probably end up doing some punditry or something like that. He's 73. Come on. We've all got to stop at some point, haven't we?
I mean, Steve Parish went over and above what he had to say. I mean, if it was a non-amicable agreement, I mean, he wouldn't have said these words. Steve Parish said, "It's been an absolute privilege and pleasure working alongside Roy. who's both magnificent human and an outstanding football manager. I know how much it has meant to Roy managing the club that he supported as a child, adding his distinguished and unparalleled career in football management. His record simply cannot be overstated. He's the only Palace manager to secure 4 years in the Premier League, and he helped us give us stability during the most turbulent of times. We will be forever grateful and for his immense contribution to the club. And also, going back to what you were just saying a minute ago, Ian, 45 years, 16 clubs, 8 countries. Hodgson is the oldest person to have managed in the Premier League. Yeah, and there is something else. I mean, I'll draw the line under the Hodgson thing there. There is another stat that nobody seems to have picked up on today, and I'm going to throw this out there and see if anybody else saw it. And I'm struggling to get some of the comments through in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that I'm ignoring you in the chat, I am not, okay? They are coming through now. Today became a record for Crystal Palace. Can anybody tell me why?
I know. I think I know the answer to this.
Go on.
I think I might know.
Are we talking Gary Cahill?
We are talking Gary Cahill. Well done. Okay, go on in.
Yeah, I've got it written down somewhere. I haven't got it in front of me. Hang on. Unless you know it off the top of your head, do you?
I don't know the actual number. I don't know. Do you know the number?
I don't know the number. I know what
I've got it here. Just keep talking. I'll be with you in a minute.
So what he's about to give you, ladies and gentlemen, is
here we are.
Gary Cahill set the record today for
33,374 Premier League minutes. No player has more Premier League minutes over the last 15 years than Gary Cahill. There you go.
And he's done that. Obviously, he's broken that record playing for Palace. So Chelsea, Bolton, and Palace. Yeah, would I be right?
Yes, I think that's right.
Off the top of my head. Have I missed anybody out, G-Web?
I don't think you played for anyone else.
No, I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen,
and sorry, Nick, I'll cut across you. The opposite end to that scale, bless him, another centre-back, Martin Kelly. He played 171 seconds of this season. A possible 205,200 seconds. He played 171 of them. Bless him. And it was against his old club as well. I did think that was a bit much when he came on, but there we are.
Before we continue, I just would like to do a little bit of housekeeping, and there is a reason for this. Ladies and gentlemen, just so you're aware, live from Christchurch, New Zealand at the moment, in the background, you can't see him, but he's Tim Richards, our producer for this evening. Tim has worked tirelessly, not just on the show, but also getting his lovely wife, Wendy, to become a Palace fan when she never liked football. I would like to personally wish them a happy 25th wedding anniversary for tomorrow on behalf of your entire Red and Blue Review family. Wendy, I'm sending you big hugs, my lovey, and Tim, congratulations, mate. Right,
could have got less for murder.
You could get less for murder. Right, so John Cook says Sacco most by his absences. Rob Donovan saying Tim had more minutes than Cahill. Tim had more minutes. Oh, Tim Richards, maybe. Don't know. Martin Smith said, didn't Gary Cahill play for Villa?
Yeah, I've just googled it. He played for Villa. Yeah.
Thank you. Well done, and well done, Martin, for that one. Joan Wells says, well done, Cahill. Sign another contract. Matty Cannon says Cahill needs to be playing for us next season. Simples. Also, I'm going to continue with on Roy Hodgson, not on his retirement, but he did make a statement, and Roy Hodgson admitted that he does not envy his Crystal Palace successor over the club's expected summer battle to keep Wilfried Zaha. I'm interested in your thoughts. Right, okay. Hodgson said in February that Zaha harboured ambitions to play Champions League football. Oh, yeah? Really? Palace's determination to retain their top goal scorer looks set to be tested again. Zaha, who turns, listen to this, 29 in November, and remains to be seen whether Palace's final Premier League game of the season at Anfield this afternoon will be his last appearance for the club. It was never mentioned, was it? If I was going to continuing at his club as manager, I definitely want to do that with Wilfried Zaha in my squad. let's do the Wilfred Zaha thing, boys. I know we've done it over the season. G-Web and Steve, I'm coming to you first because I haven't had your opinion on how crap was he today, G-Web?
No, he wasn't great, was he? That's the thing, is that he can say he wants to play Champions League football, but he needs to play like a Champions League player more often than he doesn't. So it's fine him saying that. There's a few points there in that I don't see why we'd sell him. I don't see who's going to buy him on the wages he's on and how much we demand for him. And you add now the Eze being out factor. And are we going to attract a player as good as Zaha to come to play for us? Even though he's obviously an exceptionally good player, but he's not playing at that level that I don't think anyone's going to be knocking on our door offering us loads of money to buy him. And he's got too long left in his contract for us to be pressured into taking a really small fee. So I might be proven wrong. I don't know, but he just wasn't great today. He hasn't been brilliant really against any of the big clubs this season or recently. I haven't got the best memory, but he was fine against Villa. But he needs to play better, I think, if he wants people to come knocking for him.
Steve, your thoughts?
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Really, for me, how long is actually left on his contract? Is it 2 or 3 years?
I think it's another. I think it's 3 years on there.
3. Yeah, I think it's 3.
So we're still in a position where we can hold out for good money, but you have a look at the teams in the Champions League. You know, are Chelsea going to come and buy him? No, I don't think there's a real need. He's certainly not going to walk into Liverpool's team, let alone squad. I don't think he's not their type of player. Man City, you know, don't make me laugh with the likes of Mahrez. Manchester United, well, we all know what's happened there before, and I think they're going to be going hard for the likes of Sancho. I don't see what Premier League teams, what Champions League teams he can go to, except for the likes of maybe Dortmund, somewhere like that. But then with the constraints of the coronavirus, who's going to actually pay out? What's he going to be worth now? 40, 45, 50 million plus his wages?
If we're lucky.
Yeah, and personally, I think with his demeanour on the pitch, or what's perceived to be bad demeanour on the pitch, and he scored loads of goals and he's our top goal scorer, but with all due respect, with like 11 goals, it's not a lot. I think he's actually played himself out of a move to a Champions League club with the way he's done, with how he's played this season. So I think with all of those contributing factors, I don't think he can get a move next year.
Well, I've got my own personal thoughts. I actually said it at the back end of last season, before we broke for the last summer, that if he didn't go last summer, he wouldn't go. Okay, that was before the financial aspect of the COVID thing really took a hit. I mean, nobody's got the money for him now. Nobody can afford his wages anyway. And quite frankly, his performances of late, he's actually, and I think Steve's quite right, he's played himself out of a move. He's playing himself out of a move. He was, we've used the phrase over the last few weeks, disinterested. He doesn't want to do this. He's not. I mean, today was yes, he was isolated up top. I grant that, okay? I know I'm being unfair, but he wasn't tracking back. The ball came towards him, okay, and he would take a step to the left or to the right because it was going to a Liverpool player instead of trying to challenge for that ball. And again, what something Ian said earlier, that we missed Ben Teke in that role today, and you're right about that. But Zaha needed to have stepped up. I've got a feeling he doesn't like playing. I've always had this thought that he doesn't like playing with Ayew. He doesn't like playing. It's just a thought. He doesn't seem happy when Ayew's on the pitch. He likes it when Townsend's on the pitch, but he doesn't seem to be happy when Ayew's. But these are just my opinions and the ramblings of a madman, as we all know, which is what I do every week. Okay, so listen, Steve, did you get my message?
Has that just come from Facebook Messenger? I didn't open it up just in case.
Okay, no, open it up, mate. Before you go, okay, because you're saying. I want to talk to you before you go because I want your opinion, and I'm going to bring Harvey up in a second. Okay, about the big news of the week. Okay, the awful news of the week. Okay, Crystal Palace forward Eberechi Eze faces being out for at least 6 months after suffering a serious injury in a freak training incident. Ian, remember that word freak because we're coming to that in a minute. Okay, and training ground. Eze injured his Achilles after making a sharp turn in training and went down without a challenge with an MRI scan confirming the extent of the injury. The 22-year-old, who's impressed since joining from QPR for 19.5 million, scoring 4 goals in 36 games this season. It's devastating, particularly for him, said Hodgson on BT Sport. He's had a good season and a good start to his Premier League career, getting better and better, and he's such a good guy as well. He's an important member of the team, and to see this happen to him in a freak situation, it is almost impossible to understand how it happened. This is what we're going to talk about in a minute, guys. Then for it to be such a serious injury, we're absolutely devastated for him. He's such a resilient young man. He will come back strongly. Before you go, Steve-O, your thoughts on the Eze injury, please, mate?
Yeah, it's really frustrating because you're going in. We're all looking forward to next season. We're worrying about who the new manager is and who they're going to potentially bring in, and what players he's got at his disposal with the players out of contracts. And then your next main man, between him and Wilf, is now out for 3-4 months of the season. Obviously, you've got Euros, you've got pre-season. I think if it would have been early on in the season or if it would have been mid-season, we would have been in more trouble. But because it's happened now, we've got 2 to 3 months of, before the season starts again. Obviously, he's only going to miss in effect 3 months or so of the season. My one concern with that is it's a massive loss for us. But if things are not going according to plan or we're not doing well, at the beginning of next season, do they rush him back because of his quality? That would be my sort of thoughts really going forward. But yeah, look, it's a massive loss. He towards the end of the season, he really started to show his class. And I think it's just a step back. But he will come good again. He's got too much quality to not come back. So, just wish him well in a speedy recovery, but come back when you're actually fit and don't rush back. That would be my only worry.
Superb, mate. Great words. And I'm glad you mentioned next season as well. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned he'll come back fit and well, because so will you be next season. You'll be with us on the Red and Blue Review. Mate, thanks ever so much, and thanks for stepping in for Harvey at such short notice. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you, guys, and I'll see you soon.
And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
No problems.
Ian.
Today, guys.
Lee Lockwood has just said in the chat, Ian. Lee Lockwood was just said in the chat, he said, I've been kept telling you guys for nearly 2 years now. It's the surface at the training ground that's causing all these injuries. That's where I wanted to go to. Evening, Harvey.
Evening. Sorry, I'm late, guys. How are you doing?
No, all good, buddy. Thank you for coming on. Ian, training ground. Can there be any correlation to this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know more from Lee, because I'm not sure how he knows that. Surely a Premier League club of Crystal Palace's stature wouldn't have anything too different to any other Premier League club for their training ground. In terms of surface, I don't believe in that stuff. I just believe it's bad luck. There might be 1 or 2 more injuries than we would like to see, but we get to hear about them because we're Crystal Palace fans. If you're a Wolves fan, you'll know about the Wolves injuries in there that we don't know about even, because players are missing on that kind of stuff. So I think it's probably because we're too close to it that it seems accentuated, in terms of the training injuries. But like Steve said, I think Eze will come back stronger. I think he's a young man. Hopefully his body will heal quickly. And if it's going to happen, it's a good time for it to happen, isn't it? At the end of the season. So, and it also puts other clubs off sniffing around him, to be honest, if he's that injured.
Takes the heat off of it,
hopefully he comes back September, say, and he'll be like having a new player again. Hopefully to play alongside Wilf, because I like you, Dick. You said earlier, I don't think Wilf's going anywhere now. I don't think, and as George said, I don't think there's a suitor for him. I don't think anyone will pay the money. But he does need to get his head together. And someone also put in the chat, and I don't know who it was now, I've just read it quickly. Hopefully a new manager can manage Wilf better. I'm not saying Roy's done a bad job in managing Wilf, but he does play with a scowl on his face, doesn't he, too often? And he's always up for a ruck when he should just walk away and smile and get on with it if he can, And I think there's too many of our players today. Ayew wanting to mix it up today, didn't he? With Trent at one point, what's the point? Walk away. You got the free kick. Get on with it.
And it's the last game of the season. What do you mean by it? So now we can now Harvey's on. You see, we can have a proper ultras versus youngsters conversation here. Okay, so right, boys, how big a loss is the Eze injury? And also, just so you know, in case you're not aware, that the training ground surface is actually Selhurst Park. In case you didn't know, the training ground surface is the old pitch of Selhurst Park. Nigel Crouch has pointed it out in the chat, and it's bang on. We dug up that surface about 2 years ago. We literally transported it on the back of a lorry and took it over to Beckenham training ground and relayed the same surface at Selhurst Park when they put in the 4G pitches or whatever they're called. How big a loss? G-Web, you first. How big a loss is the Eze injury, mate?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's huge. He's really the only kind of big marquee signing we've made under Hodgson that I can remember in terms of like big signings. It's the worst time and the best time for him to be injured, because obviously the best time for him to be injured is when he's not going to be playing for a few months. But the problem really, the way I see it, is that I think he had a little bit of a dip in form part of the season through kind of January, February. From memory, obviously he's a really raw talent, but it seemed like he was really hitting his strides. I thought against Villa he was unbelievable.
Well said.
And I thought he was. There was a few months where he just drifted in and out of games, and he was a bit of a passenger for a while. But you could always see he had that talent, and it seemed like he was really getting a good run in the side. He was honing his craft at the Premier League level, and yeah, it's just kind of the last thing he needs is to now be put out for the first bit of next season. And the other thing that hasn't really been mentioned on the Eze front is that whatever manager comes in probably needs to start building the team around him, because he's been playing for what I've gathered from QPR fans. He's been playing out of position for us all season. He needs to be playing further into the middle. So it's a good time in that he's not been playing for a while, but it's just also really the worst time in his career for him to be not playing any Premier League football for 6 months. But yeah, like you said, he's young. Hopefully his body will recover quickly, and he seems like he's got a great attitude, doesn't he? He's always got a smile on his face, and his tweets and stuff. I know he seems to feel like he's very supported and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, fingers crossed he'll come back sooner than we think. It always seems to happen with Wilf that he comes back from his injuries quicker than the experts say at the start. So you never know. He might be built the same, and he might have the body to come back. You never know. Like September, October, we've just got to keep fingers crossed, haven't we? But
what a well-measured. I'm going to sound really patronising here, but I don't mean so. What a well-measured response, ladies and gentlemen out on Facebook land. You can see why I was keen to get G-Web on the show. Brilliant response, mate. Harvey,
beginner's luck, Nick. Beginner's luck.
Harvey, your thoughts, mate.
How do I follow that up for a start?
Exactly. Good luck, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I do want to say on the Eze front is it's obviously really bad for us in terms of he's a very different player. He's the player that can, if we're not playing well, he can galvanise us in one run. He can sort of beat 3 or 4 players, and he can lift the spirits, and suddenly we can look like we're playing a lot better instantly just from one piece of magic that he does. And the only other person in our squad that can do that is obviously Wilf. So Wilf and Eze being together takes the pressure off each other, because there's 2 players that can produce a bit of magic. And obviously I've been listening to you guys before, and obviously it's all pretty negative about Wilf and stuff, and it's now back to all the kind of responsibility being back on Wilf for producing magic, which isn't great, especially with transfer rumours going on surrounding him.
And somebody just made a point in the chat that they think that we're being a bit optimistic with September, boys. Do you know what? I actually had. Oh, I just pull my earphones out. I actually had near on Christmas in the back of my head, because this will be a long one. This is a serious injury that he'll need proper rehabilitation in it. Do you realise, guys? It's now quarter to 9 and we haven't even touched on the game yet, or either goes. And do you know, I don't care.
Skip the game.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ian, do give us your 5 minutes on both games, mate. There's nothing to see here. The season's over. We've got our points tally, it is. But over to you, mate. Just do your bits on the matches, if you don't mind, mate.
Yeah, well, I've already given you the stats on the Arsenal game, and I thought second half we were much better against Arsenal and deserved the point. So I'll draw a line under it there, really, because I will say about the chance that Wilf had at the death just before they scored their second. He did well to get into the position he did, and he just got his feet caught up beneath him, went down a bit too easily. It wasn't a penalty, it wasn't a dive either. It was just one of those Wilf moments when he probably should have tried a bit harder to stay on his feet, but he lost that opportunity to get his shot away. But he did well to get in the position in the first place. So I think we were unlucky against Arsenal. 3-1 absolutely flattered them, and
couldn't agree more.
It was pretty awful from that point of view. But as I said earlier, the Roy factor softened the blow, if you like, on Wednesday night. Today, well, it was always going to be an uphill because Liverpool had an awful lot at stake today. They had to win that game to qualify for Champions League. And Champions League is massive for a club like Liverpool, as we all know. So their 70% possession is no surprise. They're 19 shots to our 5, albeit that on target it was 5-4. And their 14 corners to our single effort is no surprise whatsoever. I thought today we started very brightly. I thought the start was good. It was a bit like the start we had at Southampton. We were on the front foot right from the off. We had the corner early on. We had Andros Townsend's free kick, which they tipped over. We had the Andros chance where he won the ball brilliantly. And that's not an easy thing to do, run that half length of the pitch and get your shot away. And it was literally millimetres away from being on target. And their keeper did well to narrow the angle. He did his job, basically, Alisson, on that occasion.
Can I just ask you one question before you continue? You would expect him to have done better, or at least hit the target.
No, I wouldn't necessarily. I thought I wouldn't criticise Andros for that. I really wouldn't, given what he had to do to get into that position. Some people might, and you might say, yes, he should have hit the target, but he was trying to bend it around the keeper, who did really, really well to get out and narrow the angle. And it was so close to being in. So I'm not going to criticise Andros for that necessarily. But it was a chance, and it was a big chance, and it was, a chance that went begging. But then after that,
been a lot different. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say things would have been. It's obvious to say, but things would have been a hell of a lot different if we had gone 1-0 up there.
Do you really think so?
Yeah, I do, because at that time, I think Leicester had just gone 1-0 up, so that pushed Liverpool outside the top 4.
Yeah, okay.
There were fans in the stadium, which I don't think you can underestimate. I mean, I think that there would have been a 10-15 minutes of a really uncertain, unnerving feeling inside Anfield, and then that could have led to anything. You're right.
You're right from that point of view, I think. But what I was going to say was, after that, Liverpool came at us, and we couldn't get near the ball.
No.
And I mean, how Salah didn't score is beyond me. I know a couple of them were good saves and things, and he was close a few times. And that header from the corner, crikey, that lad, that centre-back, he had the freedom of Anfield, didn't he? There was no one near him.
What was all that about?
How didn't he score? It was unbelievable. If that's up the other end, we're all screing, aren't we?
And how was he so open?
On that occasion?
Who was marking him as well?
No one was marking him. That was the point.
Well, who was meant to be marking him? Is what I mean.
But if you give away that many corners, and I'm not saying we give away corners, there weren't that many cheap corners. You know what I mean by a cheap corner? We had to give those corners away. They get the balls in the box. They're dangerous. And if you look at those front three of Salah, Mane and Firmino, how many goals have they scored against Crystal Palace? I mean, it goes into double figures between them. It's huge. So it was no surprise that Mane got himself on the score sheet twice. The goal we conceded in the first half, scrappy, disappointing. On another day, someone gets their boot on it and clears it. And they had a couple of goes at it, didn't they, really? It was a bit like a pinball in the box and just a little bit unlucky. Scrappy goal to concede. Second one was well worked. But again, Mane had a lot of room and time, really, to steady himself before he got his shot away. And Kaya was a little bit unlucky with the deflection. So 2-0, if you're looking at that game from a neutral's perspective, you're probably saying it's about right. But still disappointing to get beat. But I didn't really expect much else on the final day up there, given what was at stake for them. And given the injuries that we had, no Benteke, no Eze, no Luca. And I know people slate Luca, but actually he does the ugly stuff really, really well. I thought Riedeveld had a poor game in his place today. I didn't think he did much at all, frankly. and similarly, James McCarthy, he got a few tackles in, but he wasn't great either. So, we do need that holding midfield player that just does the ugly stuff. I know Luke has had his critics, but I think we missed him a bit today as well, to be fair.
Thank you, mate. In the chat, Lee Locke was saying, no, they would have really gone for it and battered us. Quite possibly. You might be right. Matty Cannon says Liverpool were nervous for the first 35 minutes. And I think he's right. You can see that. Claire Davis said they had more pressure than us. We had to score. The pressure would have been on them, and she's right. Evening, Teresa. Klopp obviously told them to send the ball high over our defence. Well, that was clear to see.
It's quite windy, wasn't it? It was very blowy out there today. It was difficult conditions.
And you know what? You're right, because they didn't even mention it. They didn't mention the conditions. I think one of the pundits on the side, who was a scouser,
Souness.
Who
was it? Was it Souness?
Yeah.
Souness.
One of them at one point did mention the conditions, but I think it was quite blowy up there. And Andy Stacey said, Nick, as Roy's not working now, any chance we can get him on the Red and Blue review next season? Well,
we'll give it a go.
Well, how about me and Roy swap places? He could host for a couple of weeks, and I'll try. I've been gobbing off about the team all season. I could go and do his job for a couple of weeks. That'd be with Harvey and G Webb as my Ray Lewington impersonators. I love it. I'd love it. So, Crystal Palace have lost each of their last 8 league meetings against Liverpool, conceding 24 goals in the process. That's 3 per game on average. Liverpool won their 2 Premier League meetings with Crystal Palace this season by a combined 9-0 scoreline.
Nick, can I come in there? Nick, can I come in there and interrupt you?
Of course you can.
Those 8 games, I'm not going to argue with that because it's fact. But what you got to remember is prior to that, we won 3 years on the trot at Anfield. All these stats about games, I think they're a little bit meaningless sometimes. The Arsenal, it's the first time we lost to Arsenal in 6 meetings the other night. So, it's all very well to have it, but, it just depends where you are with it. We have little runs of form against teams. We had that run of form against Liverpool away. We haven't had it latterly. Hopefully it can start again next season. Who knows?
Our run at the moment is Man United, isn't it? 2 on the trot, so we better do it again next season.
Yeah.
Also back in the lineup today, of course, was James Tompkins. And on the subject of James Tompkins, and I'm reading direct from the chat, boys. Okay, if you can you see it, Harvey?
Yeah.
Paul Bristow says Harvey is a young James Tompkins.
there's a few comments above. Where is it? Let me find it. I thought Luke was on the panel. ... Oh, that's Harvey. So I'm getting likened to all the players.
Luca and James Tompkins.
Yeah.
You got dark hair and a beard and you're young. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
I might go bleach blonde and try and look like VG next time.
And maybe somebody out there, before somebody says it out there, I am the same age as Roy Hodgson. No, I'm not, you cheeky sods. And Paul Holden says, I can imagine Nick being on the touchline, puffing his e-cigarette, pretending to be like Big Mal. I bet you 2 little toe rags don't even know who Big Mal is, do you?
Unfortunately. Well,
they do.
I was made to watch Crystal Palace videos at the age of 4 as soon as I understand what's going on. So.
It's in your blood, man.
Yeah.
It's running through your veins, and I love it so much. Great. Okay, so Liverpool's Mane has scored in 8 consecutive Premier League games against Crystal Palace, becoming just the 2nd player to score in 8 consecutive Premier League appearances against a single opponent, after Robin van Persie against Stoke. Yeah, see, some stats are all right, some stats. So we've finished the season in 14th place on 44 points, just 1 point behind Wolves and Newcastle on 45 points, and then a big gap jump up to Villa on 55, Everton in 10th, Leeds 9th, Arsenal 8th, Tottenham 7th, West Ham 6th. Do they still get European football for that? They do, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the Europa League now.
Europa League. But Arsenal in 8th and Tottenham in 7th, boys. How atrocious is that?
So what Tottenham qualified for this Europa Conference. So can someone enlighten me? Does anyone know what that is, the Europa Conference?
And do you know what? I've never even heard of it. Can anybody out in Facebook land enlighten the panel on what's the is it like a second division and the top of that one goes into the European League proper, and the winner of the European League obviously qualifies for the Champions League proper? Can somebody very quickly give us the heads up on what it is? Did I just see somebody say Ian Lyons is there, and somebody else has just said hello to Jel? Jel, if you're watching,
Jel Hollyoak says, "Evening, mob. I see we have finished this season as badly as we started it. Thank God this rubbish is over." Thanks, Jel.
Jel Hollyoak.
And I just want to say to Mr. Lyons, this is a Malbec, mate. It's a Malbec, not a Merlot or Shiraz. Good evening.
Good evening to Lyons here as well. Boys, we need to get together. We're going to... Right, I was going to do this at the end of the show. As Gel's watching, this is supposed to be the last review of the season, but it's not. Ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, for your information, as Jel is watching, and if he's aimed at him for a particular reason and he knows what it is, we are planning to do a full season review and maybe also a look at, hopefully by the time we do it, the new manager and potential some new signings. But we're actually going to do this as a pre-record on a new software platform. So, boys, you can delete the Be Live app this evening, okay, because it goes in the skip as of about 4 minutes from now. We're not going to be using it again. We're going over to a new platform called StreamYard. Now, we are going to hopefully get together as a panel, okay, as any of the presenters that want to come and join us, all in Jel Hollyoak's back garden. Jel Hollyoak has just had this beautiful, I don't know what you call it, structure built in his back garden with heat lights and beautiful lighting in there, lots of heat and everything else. And we are going to record a show from his beautiful solid oak table that he's built in the garden and all the lovely surroundings. And we're going to have multiple cameras. We're going to record it on StreamYard so we can all be involved in it. It's not just going to be about me and the 3 people in front of me. Next season, StreamYard will allow us to have up to 10 people on screen. Okay, so people can jump in a bit like Steve did this evening, jumping in and out, but seamlessly without interrupting the show. Okay, so we're going over to a new platform. Ladies and gentlemen in Facebook land, you don't have to do anything. It will be easier for you. There won't be the technical issues, we hope, next season that we've endured a couple of times this season. We're going to do it more professionally and we're going to take the show forward for next year. So we will be back with a vengeance next season. So I don't know about you guys. Let's finish off on the season itself, can we? I put in my notes, from my point of view, it's been a really long and grueling season, and I'm going to take a bit of a break, a bit of a breather over the summer. But I know there's other stuff going on that I'm going to tell people about in a minute. So a few words from you all. Okay, I'd like to know, has this been a bit of a grind for you this season? Is it because we haven't been in the stadium and we haven't been able to go to games? I'm open to your thoughts. Harvey, you first.
Yeah, definitely. This not being in the stadium has had such a big effect because watching on TV is just absolutely not the same. You don't feel connected to the team or whatever, and you completely do feel connected when you're in the stadium cheering them on and whatnot. As for the season itself, I mean, yeah, it was a bit like pulling teeth at times, but I guess you got to take the positives in the fact that we were never in a relegation battle. That's probably down to the poor quality of Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United more than anything. But thankfully, there were 6 or where did we finish? 14th. So six teams that were worse than us this season. So yeah, something to build on next season, indeed.
Okay, Ian.
Yeah, very much similar to Harvey. I think not being there made a huge difference. I don't know how people do this. I know some people maybe haven't got a huge choice, but I couldn't watch it week in, week out on TV. I think I'd fall out of love with it. Gel's used that phrase before now. And although, I've stuck with it, I've watched every single game live on TV, and I've been at 2 of them, the Tottenham and the Arsenal games. I missed the home games. I missed the crack with the lads going up there on the train from Upfield, the Upfield Eagles. And I missed the guys I've sat with for 20 odd years plus. Yep. I missed the away days with Grant and the likes of you, Nick. So, we've, get your coat on for Sheffield. So, we it's just a good day out, isn't it? And I tweeted this morning, about 7 o'clock, saying, "Oh, we should be at Euston now, going to an away day, but we're not, and it's the kind of thing, Liverpool away is always a good day. Some days, you think, oh, thank goodness I haven't got to drive back from Burnley or get back from Burnley on a wet Sunday night or whenever it is. But, there's nothing like being there. And this season has been awful. But it's the same for every club. And like Harvey said, I think the fact that we haven't been in a relegation dogfight, that we've survived comfortably, and we brought in one new player in Eze. And, we talked about him already tonight, but he is a real great prospect. And I think if we can add 1 or 2 more in the close season, we'll be fine next year as well.
G-Web, your thoughts?
Yeah, much the same. Missing the social aspect of it. It's just, for most of us, it's what we do every weekend for most of the year, is going to watch Palace up and down the country. So yeah, I think football's been on too much as well. It's just there's so many games on at weird kickoff times.
It has been super flooded, isn't it? I know.
Yeah, it's just hard to keep track of. I've barely watched any football other than Palace really in the last few months, just because sort of lost interest in it for a bit. There was nothing on. I wasn't looking at other teams and their impact on us in the table very often. So yeah, just looking forward to getting back. Going to enjoy a few months of not watching football, I think, and get excited for the Euros.
Well, you two boys, okay, I'm glad you touched on the Euros. You two boys, just remember, we're going to start that road back to socialising again tomorrow night, because obviously we're going to the game together tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say it's nice that the under-23s have done well, so that it gives us a nice little bonus game to go and finish the season on.
Yeah,
and hopefully they can get promoted, and it'll be good fun tomorrow night. And yeah, this season is it's been like the whole season has been like a build up to the Euros. We've completely endured this season. This season's finally over, and now we can kind of put our England shirts on and hope for the best with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to come on to the Euros and before I wrap up. Okay, question for you guys from Teresa Baker, the hero that is Teresa Baker. She's still working hard in the NHS, and we love you for what you do. And she's asking a question of you, the panel. Okay, do you guys think that there will be any penalties next season for the clubs involved in the Super League? Who wants to take that first?
Yeah, I'll take it. I don't think there will actually now. I think it's blown over a bit. If you'd asked me that question 3 or 4 weeks ago when it happened, I thought there might have been. But I don't think there will be, is my view.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think obviously the English clubs that are involved in it are so powerful in the English game that it would be an incredibly big statement of intent for the FA or the Premier League or whoever to give any kind of penalty to them, and I just think it's too big a decision for them to make, and I think they will just kind of peter out as the whole Super League has done. I mean, this is the first time I've spoken about the Super League in a few weeks now. I think it's all just petering out, and we're all going to forget about it. And I think that suits the Premier League and the FA and quite nicely, because the heat is kind of off them in having to dish out penalties to the clubs involved.
And I think also because there's no kind of to my understanding, that there's no defined penalty as set out by the Premier League in this year's Premier League rulebook. That it's going to have to be a sort of ad hoc decision that the board have to agree on, I presume, from a Premier League level on what they do. And it's just going to be too controversial a decision. That the people involved have got too much influence. I think it will die down. It will get forgotten about. But probably be forgotten about least by the everyday fans. But yeah, I can't see anything happening on that.
Nigel Crouch has answered the question with reference to how does the Europa Conference League work. Nigel, you just never cease to amaze me, mate, with your quality of your work. The winners of each group will go through to a knockout stages, and then the 8 group runners-up will compete in a playoff against one of the 8 teams who will drop into the competition, having finished 3rd in their Europa League group. So thank you for that. Daniel Garlick, Daniel Garlick, I've seen your message, okay? And I will respond to you over the summer, mate. It'd be a pleasure to have you on the show. Make sure I don't forget. Gel Holyoke he's been yakking in there, okay? Let me explain to you where Gel is. Gel, because of the European Super League thing and everything else, he got absolutely disillusioned. Him and I had a private conversation, which I'm going to share with you, that he was so disillusioned with not just the Premier League, okay, because of what was going on with the European Super League, but also Palace all the time. I won't use his terminology, but the elder statesman was in charge at Crystal Palace, and he will be back on the show once that elder statesman has left his position. Well, as you can see, he already is. He's sitting out there in Facebook land right now. So Jel will be back with me and all the rest of the team next year. Like I said, it's been a grueling season. Okay, coming up over the summer. Okay, I'm hopefully going to take a bit of a breather because it has been a long season and too much crap on the TV in regards to football, and I've had enough. And I need to go and have a lie down in a cold, darkened room somewhere. Okay, but as a team, we will be back over the summer discussing transfer windows, new managers, no doubt. Ian Noble, are you going to be looking after the Twitter account over the summer?
Yes, I will be tweeting on the Red and Blue Review. So please look out for it. Retweets.
Lots of retweets.
Like
please like and retweet anything that Ian puts out on the Twitter account. I'd like to finish up by thanking each and every one of the Red and Blue Review family. Now, I'm talking about the presenters. We've got lots of new faces on the show. The Steves, the Harveys, G Webb, Ian Noble in particular. You've been behind the scenes. People like Lucy Usher, okay, Nigel Croucher, Tim Richards, Tom Clark-Samuel, all you guys. This show is nothing without you lot, okay? I can't do this all on my own, okay? I don't want to do this on my own. I want to do it with an ever-increasing circle of people getting involved in the show. And that's why these three that you're looking at in front of us are on the show, because they are now the future of the show. I need to take a little step back. Ian Noble will be hosting a couple of the shows next year, and I'm delighted he's offered, and I thank him for doing so. Both Ians, obviously, Jel Holyoke, the presenters, all the producers, and lastly, but most of all, thank you to each and every one of you viewers out there that have contributed in some way to this show, forming the show. You're all out there this evening after back-to-back defeats, okay? Us finishing 14th in the Premier League. Thank you for watching over the course of the season. We will be back bigger, bolder and stronger next season. Mark my words. I'll still be here. I'll still be fronting the show, but I have this team, these guys around me, okay, who I can't do it without. So,
oh, he's gone away. Where's he gone?
Lost him.
He's gone. Are we still live? Are we still live? Okay.
Here we are.
Is it down to me to wrap this up?
Oh, he's back. He's back.
I don't know what happened. I think old Richards is getting too push happy with the end button. Listen, I'm gonna leave it. G Webb, welcome to the team. Harvey,
thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the team. Mr.
Yeah,
Noble,
thanks again.
Take over whenever you want to next season, mate. Thank you so
I'm
much.
Not taking over. You behave.
I need you to do what you've promised you're going to do and host a couple of shows. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Philpott signing off for the summer. Be safe. Enjoy the break. Don't go away. It's not worth it. Last thing I must remember to do. It's, as I said, it's not exactly the end from us for the season. Ian Lyons' European Predictions League is up and running. Go on to www.redandbluereview.co.uk and look on the Predictions League. Okay, make sure you sign it. You join it. It's only £20 for the entire season. Okay, please jump on it and enjoy it. It's been great fun. I'm Nick Philpott. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you very, very soon. Good night, everybody. Good night.